So it's time to rebuild the upper control arm on the front suspension of your classic Chrysler product, but you don't really know how, because let's say you're a Chevrolet, Ford, even an AMC guy, and you've never messed with these upper control arms. They're voodoo magic to you. Well, I'm gonna show y'all a little bit of how to get these things rebuilt. There's a couple easy tools to get that you absolutely need, one of which is this here ball joint socket. Now I know what y'all are probably thinking, what in the world do you need a socket for the ball joint? Don't you just press those things out? Not on a Chrysler product. That's right, this little puppy right here, it's got threads. So you got to take your big old ball joint socket, bam, and pop it right on there. Now mind you, this thing's a 3/4 inch drive, so you need quite the breaker bar to get it off. Luckily, I have just the thing. Now, even though you've got your big old breaker bar on here, this thing is usually hard to get going. Mine likes to prove me wrong, but trust me, the last time I did this car had been sitting in a field for 30 years and this ball joint did not want to come off. So what I did here, just to make sure that it would be a little easier, I took a MAP gas torch, heated all around it, and just gave it a little bit of the good old spray. And what do you know, it loosened right up. Now you might be able to tell, but around these flats, you can actually see some of the threads in there. So it's a good place for grime and gunk to get in, but it's also a good way for you to get that oil in there. So just heat her on up, spray the oil right there on the sides, and it'll seep through. Just a side note on these sockets, there's actually a couple different sizes. This particular one's gonna work for your B bodies, your E bodies, FMJ bodies. I'm sure it's gonna work on your trucks, but it'll only work for A bodies. It will only work on your disc brake applications. The drum brake applications for A bodies actually use a different size socket, so you need a specific socket just for those cars. And I believe C bodies use a different socket, but I've never messed with those ones, so just do your research and you'll get it figured out. Next up, you got to get this upper control arm out. Now that's actually fairly easy. All you got to do is take off a couple nuts, which conveniently they just left some big old holes wide open for you to get to. Both sides have it. 3/4 inch X on both ends, and you can get these cam bolts right on out. Now you'll notice this cam bolt is all the way one way, and this cam bolt's all the way the other way. You see, that's one of the problems that we're going to be fixing with these offset upper control arm bushings that I'm going to be installing later. I'm going to get these off, and I'll see you later whenever I pull these upper control arm bushings that are currently in there out. You know, I thought about just putting the car back together once I got my drum brakes set up on, but yeah, this bushing tells me I'm right for doing this job here. Well, now to figure out how I'm going to knock these out, and I'll show you guys what I'm going to do. Now here's something y'all may be tempted to try to do. Set it in the vise and start wham, hammering on this with a hammer. Now let me tell you, I've seen it work in the past. Don't get me wrong, I've seen it work. And if you're dealing with the Chevrolet, you kind of have to do something like that. But that's not how we do it on these Chryslers. We got a little better method. I'm gonna show y'all exactly what I'm gonna do. Well then, I guess that's why you don't bang around stuff whenever you had it set up for prop. All right, so here's my contraption that I made up. I just got a piece of pipe with a big old thick fender washer that would cover the whole thing. Piece of 3/8 all thread, 2 nuts on either side with another thick washer. I took the torch and just barely heated up around and sprayed some WD-40 on here. And then you just tighten it together. It'll suck everything in and pull that bushing right on out. So we're back over here on the car, and I just have this control arm sitting in place to show you roughly what we're going to do. So we're going to be installing a set of Moog offset upper control arm bushings. And what we're trying to accomplish here is more caster. So the way that we do that is we're going to put the bushings in there in a way to where it offsets the ball joint rearward in the car. And I'll show you here in just a second how that's going to be accomplished with the directions that we put this. All right, so there's the offset up control arm bushing. There's your Moog part number right there, K7103. Now I have this slightly pressed into this here upper control arm just because I wanted to have it in there for demonstration. So you'll notice it has an arrow right there. That arrow is going to denote which direction the control arm is going to move.
So what you need to pay attention to is which direction you are wanting this control arm to move. So I have it set towards facing the ball joint for this side, so that way it's going to kick the control arm this way. So it's all the way pressed in there. Now to just do the other side. Now on this side, I'm going to have the arrow facing towards the back because I actually want for this rear part of the control arm to move backwards. So in doing that, that's effectively moving the ball joint back in the car, which is going to give me more caster, which is what we're trying to accomplish here. Got the bushings all the way in the upper control arm. There's these little washers that you do have to press in there. There's a big one on the outside and a little one that goes on the inside, but they're easy enough to get in there. So now I just got to make this thing fit off in here. It's probably going to be a bit of a tight squeeze, it seems, so I'm gonna give her a quick smack with the hammer and get her sent home. Alright, one last little piece of advice I can give, and really the best piece of advice I can give whenever it comes to this upper ball joint. Two things. Make sure, first off, that the threads in here are clean, free of debris. Take a wire brush and clean everything up inside the control arm. Second, tighten these nuts with the control arm in a raised position, so that way it will hold it up and not be down against the shock whenever you're trying to tighten this up. Trust me, with how much force it takes to screw these things in here, it is gonna help having this thing stay halfway still. And with that, we're done. All I have left to do is just put all the hub assembly and everything back on this car, and she's ready for an alignment. But that's beyond the scope of this video, so I hope you all enjoyed. And I especially hope you all got something out of that.